Not worried at all. I rely on God, Allah.
Assalamu alaikum, addressing real issues with real solutions with real Muslim communities living in the West. Join the Lifehawk podcast family as we go beyond the theoretical. Connect with us at youtube.com/Dr. Syed for all your Lifehawk episodes and support us by subscribing and hitting the notification bell for all new episodes coming your way.
We have with us a legend in the Muslim world, a legend in Islamic da'wah and outreach, Shaykh Khalid Yasin.
I don't want the blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to be popular.
How did you develop such a strong voice?
I had to fend for myself because I was a little guy. Well, they classified me as incorrigible.
The way we're characterized, in a lot of Western countries as a monolith, as if we have a Khalifa and we're all one people and we all have the same way of thinking.
I call the scenario culture being inside the prison or Islam being in the passenger of Muslim culture. Most Muslims who have a podcast, they never want to discuss the real issues. This is what you're trying to do.
Makes it a much better conversation.
It's good energy. There's an element in Islam which has been eviscerated. It's been politically, surgically eviscerated from the Muslim consciousness and thinking in order to make them impotent, ineffective, divided among themselves, and locked into culture. This is called jama'ah.
Some of these people, when you bring up like an Islamic centric view of something, that's actually looked upon as something negative. Oh, you can't look at it from an Islamic centric point of view. You know what I mean? You have to that means you've identified yourself as a Muslim, whereas you need to identify yourself as like a regular citizen. But that, you can't separate that because we're going to look at justice issues through an Islamic lens, right? I'm really enjoying, by the way, the conversation. It's very good. Alhamdulillah.
Well, I kind of think, Doctor, that I tend to be a lot more optimistic than most people.
Yes.
And maybe my optimism comes at the end because, like a doctor, after he does his diagnosis and comes up with maybe even a treatment plan and all of that, he kind of knows what's going on. And when he confronts you, he doesn't say right away that you have cancer, maybe. He just says, I want to run some more tests because, I'm concerned about a few things. So he's being diplomatic, although he already seen some things that are already conclusive, right? But this is just his medical training to kind of drop it on you so you're not traumatized. So when he chooses to tell you that you have cancer, even he does it in such a way that he couches it. So he says to you, I'm just telling you how I've seen it. He says, listen, we did some tests and I wasn't too pleased with a few of the tests that came across. In fact, I'm more than concerned now. I'm confirmed. I'm convinced that we have a task in front of us. This is how he comes with it, right? And he says that, and I want to be honest with you because I'm your doctor. It's my job to kind of like clear the air, be clear with you about what we need to do. What we've detected is some live cancer cells. So the guy doesn't. He says cancer so fast, the guy doesn't catch it or the lady doesn't catch it. You've caught. You said what? The doctor says, yeah. But however, the good thing about it, before the word cancer really hits you, he says the good thing about it, we caught it on time. So you see, he dropped on you the situation, but he delivered you straight into the good news is that we've caught it on time and that we've got a treatment plan. And if you kind of follow what we did, there's a good chance we're going to beat this. So now, this is just a wonderful way that his training has couched the trauma, the reality, and taking you into another thing of like, from a point of therapy, don't worry about it. We're going to move. Well, I like that approach. So having said that, I try to be, and I try to, when I talk to people about an issue, I try to come at it surgical, therapeutic. I try to keep it real, in my own way. Sometimes I even add some humor. I even bring sometimes some urban graphics to the table to kind of wake people up, because they just wasn't expecting me to talk with Ebonics. So I even sometimes introduce some Ebonics, because I know there's some homeboys in the room or something like that. And even I'm sometimes a bit critical. I pull back the scabs that people are hiding, that we just don't talk about, and people they cringe a little bit. Wow, and I can see in the crowd that, like, whoa, like I'm talking sometime about an issue that brothers and sisters do not hear a discussion about, real and raw. I go to it, but then at the end I say, okay, brothers and sisters, I know I've been a bit critical. I know that I've been a bit also graphic, and I'm not going to apologize for that, because that was part of the treatment. However, what I'd like to say here is that I think that we've got a grasp on this. I think that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I think that there's a way that we can deal with this here if we catch it now, and if we are sincere about it right now. I think that we can deal with this here, where we're not going to wind up traumatic, or we're not going to what do you call it? We're not going to what do you call that when the boat capsizes? We're not going to capsize the boat. We're not going to hit each other. We're not going to harm each other. We caught it. We can deal with it. Well, that is to have a bit of optimism. And sometimes the captain of the boat, or the pilot on the plane, when he reaches a situation that he knows is really dangerous, he doesn't want to say exactly, hey guys, I don't really know where we're going to land at. I don't know what he's not going to say that, because he doesn't want to put the people in panic. He's going to say, like, we've got it controlled. Don't worry. Just buckle your seats up and okay. So sometimes we've got to do that in order to lessen the trauma, but to keep the people's attention. And so, alhamdulillah, doctor, I am very optimistic about the overall global condition of Muslims.
Yes.
I'm optimistic because I do believe that in different places in the world, there are intellectuals, there are business people, there are industrially trained people, there are very sincere and capable scholars. There are men and women who have a deep love for the Prophet ﷺ and a deep love for Islam. And because of social media and because of telecommunications, they have been able to cross ethnic and cultural lines to listen to each other and to start forming a global consciousness, and that the thinking now is starting to change. Not a great change, but the water is now lukewarm. It was cold before. It's now lukewarm. So that maybe in another year or two, it's going to be warm. And maybe in 5 years or 7 years, it's going to be hot. And maybe in 10 years' time, if God willing, I'm living, it's going to be ready for the tea or the coffee. And I'm talking about on a global level. Because I don't see Islam performing anymore within the spectrum of Western or Eastern or regional theaters any longer. Truth is not regional, and Islam is not regional. And when it manifests itself based upon the realms of telecommunications, on the realm of social media and transnational corporation and business and the tools that we have today, I believe that when Islam really hits the world in full stride, I think that we're going to see a renaissance of Islam that the world probably is not going to, the world is not expecting. and that even Muslims themselves probably are not going to expect. Why? Because I think that the people that are going to be entering Islam in the next 7 to 10 years, the caliber of people, the backgrounds of people, the tools and experiences and resources that they have, that there's going to be a global renaissance. Not one that is like before, Eastern or Western or regional. And on that point, if you don't mind, let me just say something. There's something very unique happening in the world today. You know, I visited Turkey, and I hope you don't mind me just sometimes using examples like this here.
Yeah, no problem.
Turkey. I visited Turkey the first time in 1984. So that's like 36 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in Taksim Square in 1984, you know, looking out at the masjid, the Blue Mosque, and, you know, these beautiful masjids. And I'm sitting in view, in hear sight, or I'm sitting in ear, what do you call that? In listening range of about 15 or 20 mosques. So I was sitting there, and it was Asr time. And when one adhan happens, you hear 15 or 20 mosques calling the adhan from all over. And Taksim Square is a view of the bay, the Bosphorus, I think, sea. So I was sitting there drinking coffee, and I hear the adhan. And I'm noticing that nobody's moving. You know, usually, you know, if you're in Saudi Arabia, you know, especially, or Egypt, and you're sitting someplace in the adhan happens, you start seeing reactions to the adhan. Well, I was sitting in Taksim Square, you know, in the city, in Istanbul. This is downtown.
Yeah.
And nobody's moving. I said, well, what's going on here? So, okay, I get up and I go to a mosque. I walk about 15 minutes and I go to a beautiful mosque. And I go inside and there's not many people there. Okay, and I pray with the imam. He comes in. And if you don't mind me giving you the scenario, the imam comes in, you know, dressed, you know, casual, and he puts on his burqa, or his what you call it, his
Jubba, yeah.
He puts on his jubba,
Yeah.
and he puts on his amama, and he steps up on the platform. He leads a prayer. After he finishes, he does his tasbihat, you know, and he hangs those on a little pin, and then he goes back and takes his jubba and hangs it up, and puts his amama on the shelf. And when I came out of the mosque, I passed by this coffee shop, and the imam is sitting there smoking a cigarette. I said, Lord, what's going on here? To be honest with you, my first impression of Turkey, based upon it being the last semblance of the Khilafah, I was really traumatized. I was so disappointed that I almost felt like I'm never coming back here again. Well, let me fast forward it to you, just to show you about what happens. Let's fast forward it. 6 years ago, I was invited to Turkey to give a lecture in the same hall that President Erdogan, when he was the prime minister, he gave his inaugural speech in that hall. So you can know that it must have been a very prestigious hall. Well, he gave me that hall, or permission to use that hall, for my lecture. It's a crazy place where they can translate your lecture into 28 lectures just like that at the same time.
Subhanallah.
Okay. It's the view of the place, like it's like a glass wall looking at the ocean with seats of like 600 or 800 people. I mean, it's like, you know, you can't believe it. So this is where they invited me. So after I delivered the lecture, and I sat with some brothers, and we took a real tour of Istanbul. The difference between 1984 and 2014 was like night and day. So this is what telecommunications, this is what global dynamics, social media, a new view, a new leadership, this is what can happen. To me, it's not like it brought a new Turkey. What it did do, it brought a new view, a new ambiance a totally new set of thinking, so that think about this now. In the United States, I don't know about Canada, but in the United States, Turkey has, in the last 6 years, built what, well, I'm living here, where I'm at right now, where I'm sitting right now. I'm sitting 3 minutes away from the largest, most sophisticated, most impressionable, high-tech Islamic center in North America, built with $128 million. And it's not a mosque. It's a community. Okay, it's Turkish style or whatever you want to call it. But this is what the modern world requires. Because the Turkish government, and I'm not, again, giving some kind of a, maybe somebody say, hey, Shaykh, did the Turkish government sponsor you or something like that? No, they didn't. I'm just telling you my real impressions. So the Turkish government has a vision, unlike maybe some other countries today, that they are going to build 20 such mosques, Islamic centers rather, in the world, for the world to be able to see physically, and their idea is that this mosque or this Islamic center has to eclipse any church in America. It has to eclipse any synagogue in America. It must become a centerpiece that when any non-Muslim steps on this place and sees it physically, or they see it from a distance or on a postcard, they have to understand this is a product of Islamic civilization. And for that reason, I want to say that I have to thank the Turkish government and the Turkish leadership for doing that on our behalf. Because even though it might be aesthetic, for me, I can say that with my mother, my 97-year-old mother, who took Shahada from me, you know what she told me when she saw the pictures? SubhanAllah. She just saw the postcard. She didn't visit the place.
Yeah.
You know what she said to me? She told me, she said, Khalid, son, I'm really proud of you. Because now, I was just standing there. I had given the khutbah last week at the khutbah, Jummah. And I took a picture with the ambassador. He asked me to take a picture with him. So we took a picture, and he was not dressed like the ambassador. He was dressed like a regular guy from the street. So my mother didn't know who he was. She said to me, who's those guys standing with you? I said, it's the director of the place, and the other guy's the ambassador. So she said, well, what is that? I said, well, he's the representative of the government of that country. She says to me, I'm really proud of you, son, because you seem like you've really done something. Meaning what she meant.
Yeah.
She thought that was my mosque. My mother's 97. She's prayed with me in African mosque and Arab mosque and Asian mosque, and she's went with me over the years and whatever. And in her mind, when she saw that place, she told me, son, that is the most beautiful religious place I have ever seen in my life. And you say it's in America? I said, yes, mother, it's in America. She said, son, you don't need to go anywhere else. That's what she told me. So take the statement of a 97-year-old African-American woman who took Shahada from her son, who didn't finish high school, who doesn't, hasn't moved beyond the urban area where she has lived, her impressions. And so I think that what's happening today is that there is an Islamic renaissance taking place in the world today that's going to eliminate and modify a lot of culture, and it's going to dissipate the ethnic colors. It's going to bring people together on the same platform where they are forced to talk, solve problems that are not regional problems. They're not even governmental problems. They are national and international problems and issues that we're going to have to solve, that we're going to have to or resolve, so to speak. And so this is why I am very optimistic after traveling around the world and after spending this 5 or 6 months in isolation. I'm very optimistic, and I just want to give you a little a clip from my book. And
Sure.
so I'm going to give you a little clip from my book. At the end of my book, like the last chapter, I'm writing, and I said, you know what, brothers and sisters, those who are reading this book, who are Muslims or non-Muslims, I want to give you the statement that I want to say it wholeheartedly and sincerely. It has come to my heart and my mind as an American citizen and as a African American and as a Muslim that Islam is good for America and America is good for Islam. That's like one of the last sentences that I say in my book, right? So I've said it before in some lectures, and people have like, what? The reaction was by Muslims, what? Shaykh, what are you smoking? You know, Shaykh, what are you on? I mean, what's happened to you? You talking about this country that has done more damage to Islam? You talking about blah, blah, blah. And so I got more heat from Muslims by making this statement than I did from non-Muslims. But guess what? I am convinced, as an American citizen and as a Muslim and as a descendant of the African slave, I'm convinced that I'm living in a time, I'm blessed to be living in a time and in a country and in a region of the world that I believe that the best of Islam is going to come from right here where we are. That's what I believe. And secondly, I believe that North America probably has the atmosphere, has the systems in place, it has the population. It's still a young generation, it's still a young civilization, and it is strategic to the world. That I do believe that that the platform for the Islamic message is probably has the greatest proclivity or potential or prospect to come from North America than it does from any other way in the world. And of course, Europe is going to play its part, but not a part like, in my estimation, not like North America. So having said that, that leads us to why I wrote this book, Islam, America, and the World. And
so you mentioned that it took you 6 years to write this book?
Well, no, it took me 40 years it took me 40 years of traveling and interacting to gain the exposure, the experience, and the mindset to even write the book. But I started seriously collecting my writings and collecting my thoughts about 7 years ago, because I was about to do a movie called Son of a Prince After X. And I even did a movie teaser, so to speak, and we started the process for the movie.
Yes.
And so what happened is that I didn't understand the industry.
Yes.
I was kind of naive to the industry. And so some guys put up $5 million to do the movie, but they wanted to control me as an artist. And they wanted to own the properties of the movie. And I told them, wait a minute, guys. Spike Lee did Malcolm X because Malcolm X was dead. Alex Haley, you know, wrote the book because he was a double agent, you know, whatever. But I'm not dead. I'm not Malcolm X. And you guys are not going to do a movie on my life and treat me like an artist and kind of like give me some royalties. And you guys are going to be controlling my book. Thank you, but no thank you. So I walked away from $5 million. But to be honest with you, sometimes I do kick myself in the behind, you know, and other people in my family say to me, Shaykh, how you do that? How did you just walk away from that? Well, because I was insulted. Maybe they didn't mean to insult me. They thought they were doing something good for me. But because of my background and my sensitivity, I was insulted that they were telling me that we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And this is what we're going to give you. And at the end of it, you're going to get 12% or 15% of the royalties and blah, blah, blah. I told them, no, guys, no, this is my life. This is my movie. And you guys are the technicians. You're the investors. And okay, you can select a director. You can be the executive producers, but you're not going to tell me what to do with my life. You're not going to package my life like I was a dead person. I was angry, so the Brooklyn came out of me. And because the Brooklyn came out, I went what we call in the street, F it. You know, I don't want to say that word on the screen. I mean, on our, you know, I don't want to say it. So, you know, in graphic terminology, when we get angry, African Americans, we do what's called FI. You know, we just go another way. So I walked away from it. I was angry. I was pissed off with myself too, because I should have saw it coming and I should have come at it a different way. And maybe I would have been able to, I don't know, reconcile it, right? But we didn't.
So then you just transitioned towards this book then? Focusing.
So what happened, Doctor, is that I was talking to one of my daughters. And my daughter said to me, you know, Dad, actually, maybe that was a favor from Allah. She told me, you know, Dad, actually, maybe the world and you is not so much prepared to jump right into Son of a Prince After X. Secondly, the Muslims who know you, they deserve to get the background of your experience, your exposure about Islam and about your travels around the world and how you see Islam and the world developing. She didn't say it exactly like that, but that's kind of what I got from her and others, that what you should probably do is collect all of your writings and your impressions and your insights about Islam, and as you travel the world. And so that's where the title came from. Islam, America, and the world from my perspective. My spin, my experience, my insight as it affected me as a African American. And so, so what happened was I began collecting my writings, and I met a sister. I met a sister named Munira Walker through a friend of mine, and she's an author. So she said to me, okay, Shaykh, if you trust Hassan, which is my best friend, if you trust Hassan, then trust me, because I'm the best friend of his wife. And just take a copy and send all of your stuff to me. Put it in a box and send it to me. And Shaykh, I will begin to organize it. Well, it took Sister Munira the better part. Well, I'm not going to say it took her that, but it took her and I sort of like to fan it out. The better part of maybe 4 or 5 years. Because you can imagine that my writings were probably well over 7,000 pages. So we had to kind of like make a book out of 7,000 pages, you know, like I'm writing for like 15 or 20 years.
Yes.
And so she had to try to make a book. And so she called me up one day and told me, Shaykh, this is not a book. This is a movie. So my first reaction was to do Son of a Prince After X. But then I realized that from some other advice, well, it wasn't time, it didn't happen. So we came back to the table and we organized some Islam, America, the world, but I wasn't stable. So my writing wasn't coming consistently. And so by the time the COVID hit in early February, early March, I was self-isolated, as I told you. And then she and I started talking seriously about this book. And so I just buckled in and helped her to bring things down into the 700 pages, from 7,000 pages into 700 pages. And to take the 700 pages and to break it down into 3 volumes, of which the first volume, Islam, America, and the World, Volume 1, is the one that we are about to release in the next week or 2, or whatever the case might be.
Well, it's going to be released only in a few weeks.
Yeah, well, you know, I didn't realize that writing is not like a lecture. You know, if you want to be an accomplished writer, you got to spell check. You got to do more than spell check. You've got to fact check. You know, you've got to make sure that what market are you writing to? You know, who are you writing to? Who are going to be your readers? Are it going to be Muslims? If it's going to be the world, it's going to be intellectuals. Are you writing about your personal experiences? Or are you writing about? So if you look at the title, Islam, America, and the World, it's a very, how can you call, wide title. And not many people, this is what an experienced writer told me. He said, Shaykh, do you really want to tackle that kind of a topic? I told him, yeah, that's what I want to tackle. That's what I want to talk about. So anyway, if you kind of put that in the search bar of Google, you'll find out that there's never been anybody, I don't know why, no one has ever written a book on Islam, America, and the world. They took like Islam in the world, Islam in America, Islam and Muslims, or Muslims in America, but not Islam as an entity, America as an entity, and the world as a global entity, and try to put those two together without clashing. So, to be honest, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for me. It was very. It's been very difficult. There's been times when I not threw up my hands, but there were times when I began to doubt whether or not I had the capacity to do this. I didn't tell anybody else that because I can fake it. When you talk to other people, you can be confident, but inside yourself, you start seeing that maybe I bit off a little bit too much, more than I could chew. So there have been times when I've been a little hesitant, or maybe I got to rethink this out and whatever it is. But now that my writing is kind of done, we're just putting the appendix together now, my acknowledgments, we're doing the marketing, we're doing some other aesthetic things like illustrations and, things so that it's delivered professionally, because Amazon and Times and the other houses, they have a criteria that they set, that when your book comes out, if you want your book to arrive at a certain level, you have to fit a certain criteria. If you don't, your book is going to be received, but it's just going to be on an Amazon list, but it's not going to go anywhere, maybe. So my people who advise me, and by the way, Doctor, Muslims should know this, that I selected a Jewish group of publishers. The guys that are publishing my book is a small Jewish group in Brooklyn. And they just came to me some kind of way. And they didn't come to me, but I hooked up with them. And when I talked to them, I found that they were qualified, they were well experienced, they were well positioned, they were very well mannered. They were willing to deal with a guy with a red beard, with a guy that has a very bad Wikipedia. Wikipedia did a bad job on me. And a guy who, when you go to put him into Google, he comes across the good, the bad, and the ugly and crazy stuff. Well, these guys did that. But even after that, guess what? They said, Shaykh Yasin, your book is very interesting. We would really be motivated to do this book. We've never done a book like this here. And it's going to be, there'll be some, growing pains with us. But we promise you that if you can deal with us, we can deal with you, and we have good experience in the market. And guess what? Against the wishes of some of my people and my advisors, I work with these guys. I'm not going to say their names because I don't have to, but I work with them. And so it has, what has slowed me down is that they never did a book like this before. That's what slowed things down. Secondly, what I thought they were supposed to do with me in terms of interaction, it didn't happen because publishing doesn't go that way anymore. They're not my cousins. They don't sit and babysit me. They don't call me every other day or twice a week. It's not like that. So anyway, it's a learning curve for me. But once I finish this first book, the second one will come, I think, probably in 45 days. And the third one will probably come in 45 days after that. So that probably by January of 2021, more than likely, all three of the volumes of Islam, America, and the World will probably be published. So I'm sorry, that's the answer to that question.
So the release date, is that a set date or you have an approximation?
No, what we've determined, what they have advised me to do is, Shaykh, don't allow your audience or your own self to set a date, because what's going to happen is once you set a date and you start pre-selling books, now you're going to be stuck to deliver your book by that date, even though you may not be satisfied with the state of it.
Okay.
Let your audience, who have been waiting for your book for 20 years, let them wait another month if necessary, or whatever it takes for you to be satisfied and your publishers to be satisfied that your book is going to come out dressed properly for the market. Secondly, it comes out formatted in the way that you would want your message to come out. And thirdly, that you built a symmetry, or what's the word? Not symmetry, but a synergy with your publishing group, with your marketing group, and with your internal group. You built a synergy together that everybody feels good about before you release this book to Amazon and you start sending the ebook to other people, because that's going to set the pace for the second volume and the third volume. And so I'm the kind of a guy that I like to set dates. And I've been saying to people that the book is coming, the book is coming, the book is coming. And nobody can really complain because nobody's giving me a dime. We're not pre-selling the book at all.
Yeah.
So I'm anticipating now that seems to me that since this is like the first week in September, it seems to me that probably more than likely 30 days from now, we would have probably finished the book and it should be up on Amazon and available for ebook probably around the first week towards the second week of October. That's what I think.
Okay, that's good. If I could give you some nasiha, Sheikh, after you release the print version of the book, you should also do like an audio version of the book. And what might be good is either you yourself read it, because I think you have a very strong and powerful narrative voice. But what you can do is that there is a few audiobooks that I've seen, they've done something really cool with it. They've actually done an audiobook, so they're reading the book, then they stop after the chapter, and then they just have a discussion about it. You know what I mean? So it's almost like an audiobook slash podcast. So David Goggins, he did that with his book, which was like one of the top books in Amazon. It was very well received. And then Malcolm Gladwell actually did that with his latest book, Talking with Strangers. So it's a very nice way of like going through, because you could just do a normal audiobook where you're just reading it verbatim, but this kind of gives it a little bit more oomph. You know what I mean? It gives it a little bit more dynamism. Is like after the chapter, you have somebody that you discuss that chapter with. So it's a cool way of presenting your material in a different way in that audiobook format. So because I want to see you be very successful, and I've seen this as a cool way of presenting it in a different medium.
Yeah, actually my contract includes a printed book, an e-commerce or ebook, an audio book, a video book. So I can create that dynamic with my publishers to do the audio book with a little talk session in between. I can talk to them about that. I'm sure they would be happy to do that. It's just that it ups the budget. And to be honest with you, we talked about all different levels. We talked about the printed book, the e-book. We talked about the audio book, the video book, and we also talked about doing a documentary of the book. But what we probably are waiting to do is to see how Netflix and how HBO and Apple and some of those people how they will view it, because they might make an offer to us if the book is received well, to do a documentary on it, like they did, like Netflix did, the recent Netflix series called "Who Killed Malcolm X?" If you saw that.
Yeah, I saw that. It was very good.
Okay. This guy didn't really write a book, but he had a narrative. He had a script. He did some research, and Netflix bought that from him, and they did a very successful series. Well, there hasn't been a series like that since the book Malcolm X. I mean, since the movie Malcolm X, there hasn't been anything like that on that level. So my publishers are of the opinion that it is quite possible that if we do this right and market it properly, that maybe that's where it's going to lead to. And of course, I hope that's the case.
Yes, no, it'll definitely get to a much bigger audience. Finally, what is your hope for the readers of this book? What is the main thing you want the readers of this book to take away?
I want them to, I'm hoping that I'm going to scratch the surface of people's consciousness. I'm going to provoke some of the things I say, some of my views. I'm using my background as an urban thinker, as a homeboy, and I'm being a bit provocative and sometimes a little bit graphic, that I can sort of like rattle people's cages from time to time. Secondly, I'm hoping that I'm going to change or alter the way that people see Islam, that they will not see Islam through the Muslims. They start to see Islam for what it is, and not through the Muslim phenomena. The other thing is that I hope that intellectual, open-minded Muslims will take some of my insights to see themselves as the world sees them, as opposed to the way they see themselves. And from that point of view, that before we go out, we'll fix our tie. You know, we're kind of like you talked about the mirror. We'll be a lot more conscious about our personal, ethnic, cultural presentations of Islam, and how we Muslims offer the greatest distortions. And that's one of the things that I say in my book. We got to stop blaming other people for distorting Islam, while we ourselves are given to distortion more than others. It's just that it's from the inside. The final thing is that I want to offer a sense of distinction and hope and self confidence to the revert Muslims, that you don't have to play the back. You don't have to play the back line. You don't have to come in from the side door or the back door. You don't have to continue to play the fiddle. You don't have to be the Bilal. You know, this whole idea of, hey, you guys are the Bilal of Islam. You know, like, and may Allah bless you guys, because you guys, you know, the Prophet ﷺ, you know, he had Bilal, and you guys, no, we don't have to be that. Secondly, we do not have to wait for fatwas or from overseas anymore, because we've had enough of our sons, grandsons, and fellow new Muslims who have traveled the world, who have went to the prestigious institutions, who have come back, who have graduated from universities in America or Canada, and we're no longer people that can just give khutbahs. No, we are people that know how to manage. We know how to evaluate. We are executives. We are business people, and we can take charge of Islam in our country without other people spoon feeding us or feeding us from the international nipple. so to speak, the breast. I want new Muslims to know that we can be the host of, and we can also host international events. We can meet with states, heads of states, and we don't have to bow our heads. And we can be representative of our society and our government without other people being the spokesman for us because, we don't speak Arabic well enough, or we didn't graduate with the certification of Azhar or this or that. No, we know Islam well enough. We are literate enough. We are smart enough. We are sincere enough. And guess what? Most of the people around the world are looking for an opportunity to come to America or to come to the West, and we are already here. So there's about 15 or 20 targets that I have for my book. I don't want to say all of them. And probably the last thing is, I want my grandchildren. I want my great-grandchildren. One of my great-grandsons is 9.
Wow.
And the other one is 11. My great-grandsons.
Wow.
I want them to be able to do a lecture in their school that didn't come from the Encyclopedia Britannica. It didn't come from Google. It didn't come from a book that they bought in a Muslim bookstore. But that it came to them from their great-grandfather, who is still living and whom they are studying their life plan with. I'm their mentor for preparing their life plan. So I'm hoping that my great-grandchildren, my grandchildren, and my children have something that I didn't have. That they can go to a library and see their great-grandfather's book in the library. They can order his book from Amazon. That they can go down the street and they can meet people in the ghetto, or they can meet people in the university. And when their father's name or their great-grandfather's name is mentioned, it's just popular. So what that basically does, it takes us out of the realm of being victimized. It takes us out of the realm of having to be second, what do you call it? Second-class citizens or second-class Muslims. And it also gives us the ability to present ourselves as bona fide, fully cognizant, literate Muslims without having to qualify ourselves by scholars somewhere else. Now, I hope that that last statement is clear because it's probably the most meaningful part of my book. That I want to make sure that I empower my great-grandchildren. I want to empower my mother. From the statement I told you she made before, she told me, son, I'm not going to another mosque with you where Asians or Africans, or she don't even know what they are, where some people who are immigrants or whatever, they're the ones who's hosting you. They're the ones who own the mosque. They're the ones who's fixing their dinner, and they don't eat our food. This is my 97-year-old mother. She says, son, if you don't have your own place, your own mosque, I'm going to stay home and be a Muslim and practice Islam in my own house. Now, can you understand how that makes me feel? So I want to empower my mother before she dies. God bless her and give her long life. That she can say to her friends, my son wrote a book. It's on Amazon. I want her to be able to say that I visited my son in his center, and it's very beautiful. And I'm not talking about the Turkish center that's 3 minutes away, but I'm talking about the building that I'm in right now, which is the new Purpose of Life Foundation. And the new Sky Service Center, that we call it. So my book has a lot of I don't know. I've got a lot of sentiments and a lot of things that I'm trying to do. But I think if I want to summarize it, I'm hoping that my book will remove certain misconceptions and distortions about Islam that non-Muslims and Muslims have contributed towards, and that it will set a thinking pattern in place that when people start thinking of Islam from a critical point of view, they will now not have to go to Orientalists, or they won't have to go to scholars from somewhere else. They'll start to think to themselves that, we didn't know that there were people in America, homebred, what you call it, we might call it indigenous people, who had the ability to talk about Islam from an international perspective, from a historical perspective, and to talk about it in terms of its future prospects. And so I think it's maybe it's a little bit long-winded, and maybe it's a little bit too much for me to expect, but that's some of the things that went into my writing this book.
Jazakumullahu Khairan, Shaykh. We hope there's a lot of barakah with these efforts, and it benefits people, inshallah, globally, as you have endeavored to. And once again, it's been an honor to have you on the podcast. It's a very long episode. I think we might have to break it up into parts, inshallah. But definitely, I think
How long have we been now?
we've been 4 hours.
Wow.
So we've been talking for 4 hours almost, Sheikh. Yeah. So we're gonna definitely have. This is like the record books. We broke the records. My previous record, 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Mashallah.
Wow. Guys, look, I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, it's okay.
To me, to be honest with you, I've never done a podcast.
Yes.
I might have done something I thought was a podcast.
Yeah.
But it was always on somebody else's terms.
Yeah.
It was on a topic that really I was kind of just being, I was just trying to fit into something. But here, even talking about my book, I could probably do another 4 hours just talking about my book.
Yeah, of course.
Today.
Yeah. I know. I know.
But,
I can tell.
But the way you introduced this particular talk and how you and I did it, there's a good chemistry here, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank your colleagues who were the ones who kind of set things up, and I want to thank your technicians also, because now when I get ready to do a podcast, I'm going to have my technical people to set it up just like his fellow technicians. Thank you very much for that. And also, Dr. Syed, I really appreciate it. The work that you're doing is clearly descriptive to me. The nature of your work. I hope that I'll be another guest of yours, and I hope that we can somewhat make some kind of a joint venture between Purpose Media. So I'm hoping that we can do some kind of a joint venture out of all of this. And I really appreciate you'll give me this opportunity to reach your audience, because I just think it's significant. The topics that we've covered, this is sort of like virgin territory.
Yeah.
It seems to me that we're setting a precedent right now that people of different backgrounds can talk about Islam in the 21st century and talk about issues in a very blunt, professional, intellectual way, and even disagree without the disagreement becoming evident, and that we can complement each other without conceding to anything, and so that's what I kind of saw, and it happened so quickly and so easily that I didn't even realize that it's been 4 hours or more.
Yeah, it's subhanallah. And you have energy, Sheikh, because some people that bring on the podcast after 1 hour they get tired. They're tired after 1 hour. And my goal was always like, if we're extracting juice, let's keep squeezing until we get more out. you know. So you didn't let go either. I was like, the Sheikh is 70s, 74. He's keep going like he started like 4 hours ago. He's still at the same level of he keeps squeezing. Who's gonna let go of the thing
Yeah.
first?
Brother, to be honest with you, I've learned to make
Uh,
this special tea that the
yeah,
Somalis make. It's
yeah,
made with gurumful and
yeah,
hay,
yeah,
and honey.
yes,
Uh, so if you drink it strong without milk,
yes,
it sort of like keeps you up, right? So
yeah,
I didn't drink that
yeah,
before we spoke. I
yeah,
was getting ready to suggest to you, hey,
yeah,
give me 5 minutes. I got some of this tea already made, and
yeah,
let me
yeah,
go get me a sip of that, and we can keep
yeah,
going.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
thank you very much, brother.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you so
alhamdulillah.
much.
Inshallah, you were talking about Turkey. We should, well, I think a future bucket list project, we should do a program in Turkey. I frequently have gone there, and those changes, as you've mentioned, I've really appreciated that. And I think it has a good environment right there. I know a lot of brothers there, and I think that and maybe one or two other places, there's a lot of good hope from the Muslim world. Like for example, Pakistan. I read an article just the other day. They went from having the worst stock market in an Asian country to this year having the best performing stock market in all the Asian countries.
SubhanAllah.
You know what I mean?
Allahu Akbar.
And the only difference I see is that you have like a leadership that is showing like some Islamic minded principles. You know what I mean? So you never, Allahu Alam, we might see some amazing things in our lifetime, inshallah.
Yeah, I'm hopeful of that, and being an optimist. I'm thinking that some very powerful things are going to happen in our world, and I'm a bit subjective about this here, but I think to myself that the message of Islam
Mm,
for the 21st century,
mm,
the dialectical message of Islam, the energy of Islam for the 21st century,
mm,
that has already started to come from the West. And
mm,
I think that within 5, 7 to 10 years, it's going to be a prominent energy that
yeah.
everyone can see. And even that the Eastern traditional Muslim world
Mm,
will have to concede that
mm,
the energy and the presentation of Islam dialectically
mm.
will be coming probably from the West.
You
That's
know,
what
I,
I think.
I I think we both have selfish interests, right? We were both born and raised in the West, and I think we definitely we want to see that happen, Sheikh. But we got to work hard, I think, for that, because what's happening is the energy of the youth is being co-opted by many other interests. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think part of that is because the communities have neglected the youth. We've really neglected that. So it was really heartwarming to hear that one of your reasons for your book is so that you have uh you know a direct link to your grandchildren to help them come up and guide them within this environment. So I think that's very good forward thinking, and but it's just a tremendous right now energy that's being utilized to take away our next generation, just to confuse them, to distract them, all those things. So we have a lot of work to do, inshallah, Sheikh.
Yes, we do. And thank you. But again, even with that great work that we have to do, diamonds, uh, diamonds, they come from the pressure of the earth.
Mm,
Okay. And pearls, they're not on the top of the water, they're on the bottom.
yeah.
And gold, if it were evident from the sky,
Mm,
that people wouldn't have to dig for it, everybody would have gold.
mm,
So I think that looking at the greatest challenge that seems to exist, the most energetic, creative, um, maybe even destructive
mm,
youth element in the world is in the West.
mm,
Okay, so therefore, I believe on the further side of the spectrum, the most optimistic,
mm,
prospective, powerful, impressive. I mean, you can just think of what hip hop has done. Hip hop is almost like a religion. And it has affected everywhere and every corner of the world. And
Yeah.
hip hop started in Brooklyn, just
Yeah.
for people to know. So I believe that the present world and the Western world, where we have so many moral problems and all of that, that is the case. There are some big challenges there. But again, based on the tools that Allah has given to us, I am very confident that the young people in the West, they're going to set some trends that's going to change the thinking and open up or irrigate the ground for the Islamic seed to be planted and for it to take root, inshallah. That's my feeling.
Inshallah. Again, Jazakumullahu Khairan, Shaykh, and hopefully we can stay united upon this khair, this goodness on this path. And to the rest of our audience, remember, we want to live by the haqq, die by the haqq, and just when you think life is stuck, tune in to Life Haqq. Jazakumullahu Khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Do I feel that the New York police are providing enough protection, or do I have to have protection of my own? I look for protection from Allah.
Assalamu alaikum. Addressing real issues with real solutions with real Muslim communities living in the West. Join the Life Haqq podcast family as we go beyond the theoretical. Connect with us at youtube.com/Dr. Syed for all your Life Haqq episodes, and support us by subscribing and hitting the notification bell for all new episodes coming your